The Hello Kitty murder case remains one of the most haunting criminal cases ever recorded, not because of myths or superstition, but because of the sheer human cruelty hidden behind ordinary walls. It is a case that exposed how violence, neglect, and organized crime can quietly coexist within a crowded modern city. In May 1999, a teenage girl walked into a police station in Tsim Sha Tsui, one of Hong Kong's busiest and most crowded districts. She was only 14 years old, visibly shaken, exhausted, and crying uncontrollably. She told officers that she had not slept properly for days. According to her, the spirit of a young woman had been visiting her every night. The figure screamed, cried, and begged her to return her head. At first, the officers assumed it was fear, guilt, or a child's imagination. However, the girl insisted that what she was experiencing was not supernatural. It was memory. She explained that she had been present during a horrific crime, and that the nightmares would not stop until she told the truth. She then asked the officers to come with her to an apartment. The police followed her to an apartment on Granville Road, an area already known for criminal activity. From the moment they entered, something felt wrong. The apartment was dirty, neglected, and filled with a strong odor. Furniture was scattered, and the space looked abandoned yet unsettling. The girl pointed the officers toward a Hello Kitty stuffed doll, an object that looked disturbingly out of place in such an environment. When officers opened the doll, they found a human skull hidden inside. The room fell silent. The girl identified the skull as belonging to Fan Man Yi, a 23-year-old woman who had been reported missing weeks earlier. Fan's life had been difficult long before the crime that ended it. Abandoned by her parents at a young age, she was raised in an orphanage with poor living conditions and limited education. When she was forced to leave as a teenager, she had no qualifications, no family support, and no financial stability. Like many vulnerable young women, Fan struggled to survive. Addiction, unstable relationships, and abuse shaped much of her adult life. She married young and had a child, but the relationship quickly turned violent. In an attempt to support herself and her child, she returned to nightlife and ex-work. It was during this period that she met Chan Man-lok, a man deeply involved in organized crime. Chan supplied her with drugs and introduced her to clients. Over time, Fan became trapped in a world where fear, dependency, and control replaced safety. In early 1999, Fan stole a small amount of money from Chan. While the amount itself was not significant, the act was viewed as a serious insult. Chan demanded repayment with interest, turning a minor theft into a matter of pride and intimidation. Not long afterward, Fan was kidnapped with the help of Chan's associates and taken to the Granville Road apartment. From that moment on, she was no longer free. Fan was held in the apartment for several weeks. During this time, she was repeatedly abused and degraded. The violence escalated as time passed, becoming a form of entertainment and control for those involved. Her suffering was ignored, normalized, and enabled by everyone present. The apartment itself was filled with Hello Kitty merchandise curtains, bedding, and dolls objects typically associated with innocence and childhood. This contrast would later become one of the most disturbing symbols of the case. Eventually, Fan's body gave out under the prolonged abuse, and she died inside the apartment. After her death, those responsible attempted to remove evidence and dispose of her remains. Some parts were discarded, while her skull was hidden inside the Hello Kitty doll. The teenage girl living in the apartment was threatened into silence and warned that she would suffer the same fate if she spoke to anyone, but silence came at a cost. The girl began experiencing severe psychological distress. She could not sleep, eat, or function normally. Her mind replayed the events again and again. What she described as a ghost was not a spirit. It was guilt, trauma, and fear overwhelming a young mind. Eventually, the pressure became unbearable. She went to the police, knowing that telling the truth was the only way to escape what haunted her. police arrested Chan Manlok and his accomplices. All denied responsibility, claiming that Fan had died from a rug overdose and that they had only disposed of the body out of fear. Because physical evidence was limited and the key witness was a minor, the trial relied heavily on forensic reconstruction and testimony. The girl was granted immunity due to her age and cooperation. Chan and one accomplice were sentenced to life imprisonment. Another accomplice later had his sentence reduced and was eventually released, only to be convicted again years later for another violent offense. Psychiatric evaluations described the offenders as remorseless and emotionally detached. In 2004, Fan Man Yi's remains were finally returned to her husband for proper funeral rites. The apartment where the crime occurred was demolished in 2012, and a hotel was later built in its place. The case became known worldwide as the Hello Kitty murder, named after the doll that concealed the victim's skull, an unsettling symbol of how innocence can be corrupted. Today, the Hello Kitty murder case is studied in criminology, psychology, and sociology. It highlights how organized crime exploits vulnerable individuals, how abuse can go